Two men lived in the same kind of house, on the same street in Florence, and the boy could tell them apart without ever learning which one held the deed. One man rented his house, the other owned his, but the boy noticed he did not need to be told this, because the two men treated their houses so differently that ownership announced itself in every small thing. The renter let the little problems go. The loose hinge, the cracked step, the garden gone to weeds. Because none of it was truly his, and why pour yourself into something you do not own? He used the house. He lived in it as lightly as a man passing through, taking what it offered and investing nothing back. The owner did the opposite. He fixed the loose hinge the day it loosened. He improved what did not need improving. He treated every corner of the place as worth his care, because it was his, and its future was his future. And here is what struck the boy, the thing that turned this from an ordinary observation into something worth understanding for the rest of his life. The difference between these two men was not the deed, it was the stance. The owner's care did not come from the piece of paper that said the house was his. It came from a way of seeing, a decision held somewhere beneath thought, to treat the house as his own and its future as his responsibility. And the boy realized slowly that this stance could exist entirely apart from the deed. A man could rent and still think like an owner. A man could hold the deed and still think like a renter, neglecting what was legally his. Ownership of the mind and ownership on paper were two different things, and the first he would come to see almost always came before the second. This is the whole idea, and it reverses what nearly everyone believes. Most people think the mindset follows the possession. That first you own something, and then naturally you begin to think like an owner of it. You will care about the business once it is yours. You will invest in the work once you have a stake. You will treat your life as valuable once it contains something worth valuing. And so they wait, renting everything, their work, their time, their choices, their very lives, treating none of it as truly theirs, always waiting for some future ownership to arrive and change how they see. But the boy saw that it runs the other way. The owner's mindset is not the reward for owning. It is the road to it. The man who thinks like an owner before he owns anything, who takes responsibility as though it were already his, who builds and improves and invests himself where he has no deed at all, is the very man who ends up owning, precisely because he was already acting like the kind of person who does. The stance comes first, the possession follows the stance, and the renter who waits to feel ownership before he will act like an owner waits forever, because the feeling was always meant to come second. So the question this fable answers is not how to acquire things and then value them. It is how to adopt the owner's mind now, today, over a life in which you may currently own almost nothing. Because that mind is the seed from which real ownership grows, and it begins with the single hardest and most powerful shift of all, what the owner does with blame. The owner's mind begins with the single hardest shift a person can make, and it is the one almost everyone refuses: what he does with blame. The boy watched the renter and the owner meet misfortune, and their responses could not have been more different. When something went wrong, the renter looked outward. The landlord should have fixed it. The weather ruined it. The previous tenant left it broken. Someone else was at fault always, and the renter's first act in any trouble was to find the hand that had caused it, a hand that was never his own. And the boy understood there was often truth in these complaints. Others had contributed to the trouble, but the renter used that truth to place the whole matter outside himself, where he never had to act on it, because a problem that is someone else's fault is a problem you are permitted to do nothing about. The owner, facing the very same trouble, did something that looked almost strange. He asked first what he could have done differently, and what he could do now. Not because the misfortune was entirely his fault. Often, it genuinely was not. But because he had learned that looking for his own part in a problem was the only stance that gave him any power over it. The moment he located the cause outside himself, he became helpless, a victim of forces he could not touch. The moment he found even a sliver of the cause within his own choices, he gained a handle he could actually grip. He took responsibility not because he was guilty, but because responsibility was power and blame was surrender. This is the radical shift, and the boy wants you to see clearly why it is so hard. It feels at first like injustice. Why should you take responsibility for a problem that others caused? It feels like letting them off, like accepting a guilt that is not yours. But the owner had understood something the renter never would. This was never about guilt. It was about power. When you say the problem is someone else's fault, you're also saying, quietly, that the solution is in someone else's hands. You have handed away your power, along with the blame, and the owner refused to do that. He kept the responsibility, and therefore the power. With himself, always, even when he could have justly given it away. The boy saw the consequences of these two stances compound over the years into completely different lives. The renter, forever finding the cause of his troubles in others, remained forever unable to fix them, because you cannot repair what you have defined as beyond your reach. He was right about who was to blame, and he stayed stuck because being right about blame changes nothing. The owner, forever asking what he could do, forever found something he could do, and slowly built a life in which he was the author of his conditions rather than their victim. He was not always right about whose fault things were. He simply refused to let the answer to that question decide whether he was powerless. And this, the boy realized, is the first and deepest mark of the owner's mind, present long before any deed. The owner takes responsibility for his life as though it were entirely his to shape, because treating it as his own is the only way it ever becomes so. The renter waits for the world to be fair before he will act. The owner acts, and in acting, slowly takes ownership of a life the renter merely occupies. But the second mark of the owner's mind reaches in a different direction entirely. Not backward into blame, but forward into time. The second mark of the owner's mind reaches forward into time, and the boy saw it most clearly in how the two men treated the future of the very same thing. The renter lived in the present tense because the house was not truly his. Its future did not concern him. He cared only what it could give him now, today, during his brief stay. He would take from the garden without ever planting in it, use the well without maintaining it, wear down what existed without renewing it, not from malice, but because the future of the house belonged, in his mind, to someone else. Why plant a tree whose shade you will not sit in? Why tend what you will not be here to enjoy? The renter's horizon ended at the edge of his own stay, and so he consumed the present and left the future to fend for itself. The owner looked at the same house and saw decades. He planted the tree precisely because he would sit in its shade, or because someone he cared about would. He maintained the well not for this year, but for the next 20. He made choices whose rewards would not arrive for a very long time, and he made them gladly, because the future of the house was his future, and a man who owns something is joined to its tomorrow in a way a man who merely uses it never is. The boy understood that this long view was not a virtue the owner happened to possess. It flowed directly from the stance of ownership itself. To own a thing is to be wedded to its future. And to be wedded to its future is to think in seasons, in decades, in the long, slow arcs that the renter, bound to the present, can never see. And here, the boy saw how this reshaped every decision a man made. The renter, thinking only of now, chose whatever paid off immediately. The quick pleasure, the easy path, the reward he could hold today. The owner, thinking in decades, could choose to plant when planting gave nothing back for years, could invest in what would only mature far ahead, could endure a present cost for a future he was certain he would inhabit. The same choice sat before both men, and they chose oppositely because one was joined to tomorrow and the other was only passing through. The boy realized this was why the owner's mind, adopted early, was so quietly powerful. Long before you own anything at all, you can choose to think in the owner's time frame, to make today's decisions as a person wedded to their own future, rather than as a passerby consuming the present. You can plant what will not bear fruit for years. You can build what will not be admired for a long while. You can invest in yourself, your skills, your name, your foundations, as a man does who knows he will be living inside the results for decades to come. The renter mindset asks of everything. What does this give me now? The owner mindset asks, what will this become? And will I be glad years from now that I did it? And the boy saw that the man who lives by that second question begins almost immediately to build a different kind of life, one with roots and orchards and slow maturing things, while the renter's life stays bare of anything that takes time to grow. You become an owner of your future by treating your future as already yours. The horizon comes first. What grows within it follows. But the third mark of the owner's mind is where all of this becomes concrete, in how a person treats the work of their own hands long before that work is theirs. The third mark of the owner's mind is where the whole idea becomes concrete, and the boy found it in the way a person treats the work of their own hands, long before that work, or its rewards, truly belong to them. He watched two men labor in the same workshop, for the same master, at the same wage. The first man worked as a renter works. He gave exactly what he was paid for, and not a single motion more. He watched the light, waiting for the day to end. The work was not his. It belonged to the master, and the rewards flowed to the master. So why pour anything extra into it? He guarded his effort carefully, spending as little of himself as the wage strictly required, and he felt clever for it, certain that giving more would only be giving away what he was not paid for. He rented out his hours and withheld his soul. The second man worked as an owner works, though he owned nothing in that workshop at all. He treated the work as though it were his own, cared about the quality beyond what anyone was paying for, solved problems that were not strictly his to solve, improved things no one had asked him to improve. And the boy heard the first man mock him quietly for it. Why do more than you are paid for? You are a fool giving the master free labor. It was a compelling argument. It sounded like wisdom, and it was completely wrong. And the boy watched the years prove it wrong. Because here is what the renter of his own effort never understood. The extra a man puts into his work does not vanish into the master's pocket, gone forever. It builds something that the man carries with him wherever he goes. His skill, which sharpens only through effort freely given. His reputation, which forms around the quality he chooses to deliver. And above all, the identity of a person who does excellent work, which becomes, over time, simply who he is. The owner-minded worker was not giving away free labor. He was building himself on the master's time with the master's materials. And everything he built, he kept. The skill was his. The reputation was his. The character was his. The wage was the least of what he earned. The boy saw the two men's paths diverge exactly as you would expect. The renter, having given only what he was paid for, remained precisely worth what he was paid. No more skilled, no more trusted, no more valuable at the end of years than at the beginning, because he had refused to invest the one thing that grows a person, effort beyond the minimum. The owner-minded man, having poured himself into work that was not his, had become something the renter never could, genuinely skilled, widely trusted, and known. And that is the man to whom real ownership eventually comes, because ownership flows toward the person who has already been acting like an owner. The master promotes him. Opportunities seek him. Doors open, not as a gift, but as the natural harvest of what he had been quietly planting all along. And this is the heart of thinking like an owner before you own anything. You treat the work in front of you, however small, however much it belongs to someone else, as though it were your own, because the person you become by doing so is yours to keep forever. The renter protects his effort and stays exactly where he is. The owner invests his effort into work he does not own and slowly becomes the kind of man who ends up owning a great deal. But the fourth mark of the owner's mind is quieter, and it concerns what a person does with the things they have already built. The fourth mark of the owner's mind is quieter than the others, and it concerns what a person does with the things they have already built. The skill, the name, the small holdings, a life accumulates. And here the boy saw the renter and the owner part ways once more. The renter, even when he came to possess something of value, treated it as the renter always does, as something to be used up. He had a good name, and he spent it carelessly, making promises he did not keep, trading his reputation for small immediate gains until it was worn thin. He had a skill, and he let it dull, using it without ever sharpening it, certain that what he had was enough. He had a little money, and he consumed it. Whatever he built, he drew down, treating his assets as a store to be spent, rather than a holding to be grown. And so his possessions, however they began, moved always in one direction, toward less. The owner did the opposite with everything he held. His reputation, he guarded and grew. He kept his word precisely because each kept promise made the next one worth more, compounding his name into something increasingly valuable. His skill he sharpened even when it was already good, because he saw it not as a fixed possession, but as a living asset that grew with tending and withered with neglect. Whatever he had, he asked not, "How much can I get out of this?" but, "How do I make this into more?" The renter drew down his assets, the owner compounded them, and over enough time the boy saw that single difference in direction produced an almost unimaginable gap between two men who might have started with exactly the same holdings. The boy understood that this was the discipline of stewardship, and it was one of the rarest marks of the owner's mind. Most people, even when they finally acquire something worth having, do not know how to tend it. They consume it because the renter's habit of using up is all they have ever practiced. They spend their reputation, coast on their skill, draw down whatever they build, and wonder why their possessions never seem to grow into anything larger. They own things, but they think about those things like renters, and so the things slowly diminish in their hands. Acquiring was never the hard part, the boy realized. Keeping and growing what you acquire is the true test, and it is a test the renter's mind always fails. And this is why the owner's mind must be built before the owning. The person who has practiced stewardship over small things, who has learned to guard and grow a reputation when it was all he had, to sharpen a single skill, to compound a tiny holding rather than spend it, is the only person prepared to keep anything larger when it finally comes. The one who never learned to tend small things will lose large ones just as quickly as he gains them, because he carries the renter's consuming habit into everything he touches. Fortune given to a renter's mind drains away. Fortune given to an owner's mind grows. The mindset must come first, because it decides whether anything you acquire will last a season or a lifetime. The boy saw, then, that the owner's mind was not merely how you rise, it was how you hold, how you keep from falling once you have risen. The difference between a man who gets and a man who keeps. But beneath all four of these marks lay a single root, the deepest truth of the whole matter, and it was the thing the renter never grasped about ownership at all. Beneath all four marks lay a single root, and when the boy finally saw it, he understood what the renter had never grasped about ownership at all. The renter believed that ownership was something the world gave you, a deed handed over, a status granted, a possession placed into your hands by someone with the authority to place it there. He was always waiting to be made an owner, and because he was waiting to be given ownership, he never grasped the deeper truth. That ownership, in its truest form, is not granted. It is taken up. It is a relationship you choose to have with a thing, not a permission you receive to have it. This was the root of everything. The owner did not wait for the world to make him an owner. He simply began relating to things as an owner does, taking responsibility, thinking in decades, investing himself, tending and growing what he held. And the legal ownership, when it came, was merely the world catching up to a relationship he had already established. He owned things in his mind and in his actions long before he owned them on paper, and the paper followed. He understood that the deed does not create the owner. The owner's stance creates the conditions in which the deed arrives. And here, the boy arrived at the truth that mattered most, the one thing to carry out of this whole fable. There is one thing you already own completely, right now. No matter how little else you hold, your own life, your choices, your effort, your time, your responses, the person you are becoming. These are already yours, fully, deeded to no one else. And the tragedy the boy saw everywhere was of people who rented even this, who treated their own lives as something happening to them, owned by circumstance, by others, by luck, consuming their days, blaming outward, thinking only of now, investing in nothing, tending nothing. They were renters of their own existence, waiting for someone to hand them a life worth owning, when the deed had been in their hands the entire time. So gather what the owner's mind actually is, and see that you can adopt every part of it today. Take responsibility for your conditions, because responsibility is power, and blame is surrender. Think in decades, planting what will not bear fruit for years, because you are wedded to your own future. Pour yourself into the work before you, however small, because the person you become by doing it is yours to keep. Guard and compound what you build, tending your name and your skill as living assets rather than spending them. And beneath it all, understand that ownership is a stance you take, not a status you await, beginning with the one thing already fully yours, which is your life. The renter is still on that Florentine street, waiting for the world to hand him something worth caring about, letting the hinges loosen and the garden go to weeds, certain that he will start tending things once something is truly his. He will wait his whole life. The owner never waited at all. He simply began with what little he had to live as though it mattered, and watched it slowly become a great deal. You already hold the only deed that matters. The question the boy leaves you with is simply this: will you keep renting a life that was yours to own all along? There are more fables waiting for those who have decided to stop waiting.